The UK Forum for Supply Chain Sustainability 2016 brought together some of the sector's leading industry and academic experts. The forum was organised by Loughborough University and the Carbon Trust.
We have a number of conferences dedicated to industries. We have a number of conferences dedicated to academics, and both works in isolation. So what we thought it would be a great idea if we can bring together both academia and industry together on one platform.
This conference has been an idea which we had to bring together those on the academic side and those on the business side, which we work with between Loughborough University and the Carbon Trust, because we can see that the amount which they can help each other is really extremely great, and the idea of collaboration seems to be something which there should be even more of.
One of the key topics is that sustainability is no longer a niche issue and is moving up the corporate agenda.
It's been apparent to the enthusiasts for many years, but in recent years it's become apparent to everybody that not only are there issues around climate change, but there are issues around lack of core materials, and also that we've been very wasteful in the way we build products and then throw them away long before they're worn out. So I think the imminent shortage of materials, the potential damage to the climate mean that sustainability is right at the top of the agenda for industry.
Major industries are now taking sustainability very, very seriously.
What we do is we look at how we manufacture products, and we ensure that we manufacture them as efficiently as possible, as benignly as possible, using the minimum amount of raw materials, energy, and we put it in a form that the patient or the consumer can use easily.
Companies that are seriously pursuing sustainability agendas can benefit from significant cost savings, which is something GSK is keen to share.
For us, it's very important to share the business case that can be derived with being sustainable, because we actually still believe a number of companies don't fully recognise the financial benefit that there is in being sustainable, and that's why we're actually very honoured to be invited along to this to share.
The pursuit of competitive advantage is driving innovative business models, such as the servitization of products, which is providing new drivers for sustainability.
There's the famous example of the relationship between DuPont and Ford. Now, DuPont makes paint chemicals and paints, and Ford, of course, makes automobiles. Now, the relationship used to be how many gallons of paint can DuPont sell to Ford, because DuPont makes money based on paint. Now, Ford was saying, gee, we're wasting a lot of paint and DuPont just keeps sending us stuff. Let's change our contractual relationship. Instead of buying the product from DuPont as a paint, let's buy it as a service from DuPont to paint our cars. So now DuPont has an incentive to use less paint but paint more cars, which is a more efficient usage of materials. But it's no longer, as you mentioned, a product sale, paint, it's a service sale, painting cars. And that, when they started doing that, they made some significant cost savings and usage and hazardous chemical savings as well. So there's a win-win on both sides because they cooperated, because now the contractual agreement changed.
Businesses are beginning to recognise not only the advantages and imperative for their own processes and systems to be sustainable, but also their entire supply chain.
Well, we're baby steps really on this journey towards sustainable supply chains. We started with product carbon footprinting, which in many ways is the best way to start. I think that X-ray of your supply chain to understand what benefit your product brings, as well as the health side. And we moved along to looking at our organisational impacts. But now we're at a stage, so this conference is key really to understanding beyond our own impacts at site level, what our supply chain are doing, and trying to make sure we're sustainable throughout. And that's the most important thing, to take that helicopter view and to make sure your full supply chain's coming along with you.
Some major corporations like BT are taking greater responsibility and leadership for the uptake of sustainable business throughout their supply chain, wherever in the world the businesses are located.
We've used our influence with our suppliers to get them up the sustainability ladder, be it reducing their carbon footprint, for instance, with our key suppliers. We help them. It's not just giving them a target, but we actually help them with consultancy and ideas. But also, we help them become more ethical in the way they conduct business, because a lot of our suppliers are in the Far East, for instance, and BT's objectives has always been about improvement. Continuous improvement. So we don't kind of penalize a supplier, for instance, by giving them a score, negative score or something. It's always working with them, to improve what they have today.
A major driver for collaboration is the recognition that sustainability does present a sustainable competitive advantage in a hyper-competitive world.
There is incredible competition out there in the marketplace, so there's only so much room you have to go to by going down to continuously going down to the lowest common denominator of the lowest common price. There won't be businesses surviving with negative margins for long periods of time. It is inherently unsustainable. So the way that lots of companies are now realizing that there is competitive advantage if you're making similar products to somebody else, is to be able to give more transparency, be able to demonstrate more provenance and credibility about your organization, how you produced that product, how you brought it to market. And there's a big communications exercise that needs to go hand in glove with this. It isn't just about lots of clever people pottering around with maths around the back end of a business. This is about how we join these dots up, and collaborative ventures with academia, with industry, actually allow us to bring these things together.
The sustainability agenda is permeating into the global supply chain, with Western companies now demanding that their suppliers adopt greener processes.
We are finding our Western companies are more sensitive towards this green supply chain business. So we have to change according to the requirement, means we have to follow our customers' expectation. So if our customers expect the sort of less carbon footprint logistics services, then we have to change.
This is a relatively recent change, as previous attempts by suppliers to adopt greener processes were thwarted by the demand for lowest possible price.
We tried it in past 80s and 90s to change it in a different way. But it had a negative implication when we tried to do that in past in 80s or 90s. Actually, foreign investments got stuck up, so they wanted it in a cheaper price, all the services or the product. So that was a major constraint that we had in last 2-3 decades. Now, when Western world is ready to pay more price to have a green services, then we don't have any problem to provide it.
For experts in the field, there is an agreement that the sustainability issue has to be tackled on a global level through cooperation.
You need to have a global perspective on sustainability. Sustainability is not affecting a country, but it's affecting the whole world. Anything goes wrong, maybe in any part of the world, the whole world is affected, like global warming, like say for example, environmental pressures. So it's a global phenomena, and no country, I don't mean only India, but any country cannot work in isolation to solve this problem.
However, although the demand for sustainability may be driven by comparatively rich consumers in the developed world, for the world's developing nations, there are other imperatives which have to be addressed.
That the developed world and developing world now both hold different perspective as far as this sustainability is concerned. And to be very honest, developed world have reached to a level there when they can put a cap easily, and because but a developing world have a lot of pressure for their citizen to invest in the growth of the industry, and therefore suddenly putting a cap may not be very appropriate from different political reasons, social reasons. So what is happening? That what is the right way that our environment, our sustainability is maintained, environment is protected, and yet the growth does not impede.
There is growing consensus that it is only through collaboration that this global issue will be resolved, and that conferences like the UK Forum for Supply Chain Sustainability are vital enablers.
One of the main topics we've talked about today is in terms of collaboration, and whether that's across industry, across sector, between academics and industry. And I think wherever the best work is going on and the knowledge is, it needs to be shared. It needs to have an outlet like conferences like these, where people from across the world can go and take back that knowledge to their respective territories and share that again at different events. So I think things like this, which kind of synthesize the thinking that's going on in terms of supply chain, that's going on in terms of responsible sourcing, I think they're absolutely crucial for spreading that kind of message and for sharing things like best practice and how companies in Australia, how academics in Australia are looking at it compared to how we are looking at it in Europe, or how they're doing it in the States, or of course huge issues in the developing world.
So we've been discussing lots of ways in which we can work more and more with Loughborough University. It's a university which offers a huge amount for the type of companies which we work with, because they have the knowledge of so much of the engineering requirements, the management requirements, the logistic requirements, which makes them the ideal partner for us to work with to give what our corporate customers are really looking for.
So there is a great possibility of transfer of research results from one sector to another sector, and that's really a great benefit to us as a researcher, where we can co-create knowledge by engaging with industries and academia.
To get involved in the next UK Forum for Supply Chain Sustainability, please visit the website icgsc.org/industry.